Welcome back to my channel. I'm Nocticola and this is episode 18 of Asexuality in Film. Today I will be talking about Stephen King. The intro is gonna be quite long. So today I am drinking milk tea, bubble tea. This is supposed to be taro, which is supposed to be very purple, but it's not. I don't know why. So anyway, I'm one of those millennials who had like an older cousin who really liked Stephen King, so I read a lot of Stephen King as a preteen. And so I probably read all the books that my library had, and I had some of my own, and I read them, and I very much enjoyed them. But at some point, I like branched out to other stuff. So I actually had a like renewal, like my second phase of my Stephen King love started in like 2016. Because I was in the middle of my studies and I was like, I really need to binge watch a new show. And I ended up going with Haven, which is very loosely based on the Stephen King book, The Color of the Kid, which I actually own in Italian because I bought it for like €2 years ago at that point. But like, I have many reasons why I chose Haven, and I very much enjoyed it. And that was a good choice, but it reminded me how much I love Stephen King and his world and all that stuff. So it was interesting when I started planning this video, like literally today. It's interesting that like I have a very specific like memories of buying certain Stephen King books, like King books. So like I can remember, like I still remember, like I bought this Everything's Eventual collection. This one is the one that has like 1408. So like I remember we moved to this city, and there's a kiosk nearby that sells like basically everything, like expensive little store. And I remember they had that book and I bought it, and so like it's very interesting. And I also have a memory of buying the book I'm gonna talk about in a moment. I also have cocoa. So anyway, so I'm a lifelong Stephen King fan. In 2019, after my restart of my love for Stephen King, I was on Tumblr like I usually am, and someone showed expert from Stephen King's book Dr. Sleep is the Finnish translation. Like I remember I saw that expert and I was, oh, that's really cool. Let's see if my nearby bookstore has it. They didn't, but I was coming home and they were supposed to have this. So I remember I arrived home on long distance bus, and I just, with all my stuff, I walked to the city center bookstore and I bought this. And I actually read this in like within a month, like in July of 2019, which is very good for me because I can be a rather slow reader. But this is over 500 pages in Finnish, and I read it in a month, so that's very good for me. Apparently, I didn't have much going on other than that. So, who's asexual in this book? And I know this is about film, and I said I'm not really getting in the books, but I have to deal with the book, so I can talk about the movie. This book is the legacy sequel to The Shining. I started reading The Shining, and I've watched The Shining movie a couple of times, and I have the book and I've started the book, but I would really need to reread it from the beginning probably at some point. But I very much enjoyed this. Like I said, so this is legacy sequel to The Shining. It tells about the story of adult, very traumatized Danny Torrance, and his antagonists in the book and the movie are known as the True North. And the newest member of the True North is a woman called Andrea Steiner, aka Snakebite-Andi. So we are introduced to her rather early in the book, like in the Finnish translation, she's introduced in like page 29, and we immediately find out certain things about her. She was sexually abused by her father from ages 8 to 16. She hates men, and she considers herself asexual. And her shine is something like I think she can like. I don't remember. It's something because she can tell people to do something, and so because even though she's 32, she looks young, which like I can relate. Not anymore, but like I looked very young for a very long time. So she uses her looks and her ability, her shine, whatever, as a way to deal with pedophiles. Like she arranges dates in the early 80s, like in the book. And she joins the True North in the early 80s. She's watching like one of the Indiana Jones movies. So she uses her looks of looking young to get pedophiles to go on a date with her, and then she like punctures like them, gives them little snake bites, and then she like makes them confess their crimes and stuff like that. So the True North finds out about her and tells her like, okay, we can get you to look young, not forever, but for a very long time if you join our group. And she decides to do that. Yeah, it's been 5 years since I read this, so I don't remember all the details. But she decides to join in, and partly because she finds Rose to be attractive. Rose the Hat, the recruiter, basically. And so anyways, she's the antagonist, and she decides to... I mean, it's kind of conflicting because like she's hunting pedophiles because she wants to protect children, but then she joins this group that has to like kill children because children have much more esteem or shine, or like their abilities are a lot stronger. So basically she goes from protect her children to a child murderer. I don't know. I don't remember if that makes sense. It's kind of weird. But so, anyway. So like I said, she identifies as asexual, or it's more like... Now I need to use the English. I only have this Finnish one. So I've seen it in Tumblr. So it basically goes, Andi, who considered herself asexual, still wondered what Rose's lipstick tasted like. So, and then after she's turned into a member of the True North, she ends up having sex with Rose, and she's like, is this what sex is like for everyone? Oh, what she's missed what her father had stolen from her. Something like that. Maybe it's not as dramatic. And then she ends up in a relationship with one of the True North members called Silent Sari. And I don't remember whether or not the relationship in the book is sexual or not. It might be. And so yeah, let's deal with the book first. So yeah, it's so representation, it's not like the most unproblematic one. It clearly has some issues. Like it's great that even though this scene is set in the early 80s, that she like considers herself asexual, which is not like how we would phrase it these days. And you don't consider yourself an asexual, you are asexual. And then there's the fact that like she considers herself asexual, immediately says something with a sexual undertone, and then there's the fact that she's abused by her father and hates men and stuff like that. So it's like it's one of those things like have you not heard of being a lesbian? It kind of feels like it's kind of a bit more in that direction. But I feel like I said in my introduction, this is less about what the people like. How does this rep make us feel look like to outsiders? But it's about internal. Like me, I find Andy to be a bit more of a frustrating piece of representation. But I've also seen others who are like basically some when I make posts about Tumblr or someone like I love Snakebite ace lesbian Andy and her girlfriend Silent Sari, and like good for you. If you like her, if you find some of her relatable, if you just enjoy her as a villain, like that's fine. I'm not gonna harsh on your mellow from within the culture, like within the community, but like yeah, you can tell like still thinking that this was maybe not the best choices as far as representation goes. But I did enjoy the book. I think it's a very good book. I very much enjoyed it. So now we can finally move on to the actual movie, actual second half of the title. So in 2019, sorry, like I went to see it in the movies. Here's my movie ticket. Very good of me to put it within the book. So Dr. Sleep, written and directed by Mike Flanagan, came out in 2019, and it made some changes to Andy that are like, First of all, Andy in the book was 32. Even though she looked young, she was 32. In the movie, she was cast as a teenager. They used a teenager moment. Okay, I meant to look up who was the actress who they cast for the role, but it's a teenager, and the character is supposed to also be a teenager. She's not just a 30-something that looks young. She is actually young. She is an actual teenager played by an actual teenager, which often is good. But in this case, it's kind of like iffy. Like, it's a very different thing for a 30-something woman who has been outside, who has dealt with her abuse in some way, has been dealing with her abuse like literally half her life, than as someone who's barely escaped it. So that's a very different dynamic, a very different character. And then there's the fact that unfortunately, Dr. Sleep, the movie is, there's no queerness in the movie. There's queerness in the book. There's no queerness in the movie. Closest we get is the Andy tells Rose the Hat that she's the most beautiful woman she's ever seen, which Rebecca Ferguson plays the Rose the Hat, so that's valid reaction. But so like Andy is somewhat queer in the movie, but like not really, and I understand there's a whole lot of things that the movie had to deal with, so I understand like not leaving that out or not really dealing with that, because there's not really space, and it's not like the movie did not have 500 pages. It had like 2 hours time to do its thing. So yeah, very different goals and time to do it in, and so yeah, but it's, and then there's the fact that like Siren Siri, you have to look at the credits, which one of the nameless, voiceless, do not characters she is, and like they don't never interact. So yeah, so you can't really watch Dr. Sleep for queer representation. I do otherwise recommend it though. Like it's a very good movie. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about the ending versus the book's ending and all of that. But it's a very good movie, and it's very good adaptation. It's not just not a queer movie. and Andy is a very different character, like fundamentally different character, but still there's like similarities, so it's not like a completely different character. If I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly. So like it would have been more interesting if they actually had a 30-something actress play a 30-something character, and having that actual history within the character rather than like especially because like I don't remember how exactly they do the book, like how it's timed in the book, but I think film, like book Andy is one of those born in the 50s characters that Stephen King has, but like I think the film version of Andy is a lot younger, more contemporary. So like she hasn't been part of the True Not for decades the way the book one has. So like this experience difference, that's kind of frustrating that I lose. Yeah, so it's kind of so yeah, I will kind of like as pieces of fiction I can recommend both the book and the film, but for asexual rep the book is complicated. Kind of for me the book is frustrating. If you like it, good for you. The film, it's not there, and it's a different version of Andy that like you might like it, you might not, but like it's different. And I think one of the reasons why it's so kind of odd that Andy in the book is so weird and kind of like problematic, like it has issues with the representation, it's because in 1988 Stephen King wrote The Eyes of the Dragon, and this one has King Roland the Good of Delane, and he is written as a very asexual character in a very compassionate and very real way, in a way that feels kind of odd. This is literally came out in the 80s, and like this has a more modern approach to portraying asexuality, especially in a world where the language wouldn't be there, because this is like a medieval kingdom type, fantasy kingdom type shit. So it's interesting that like Roland is very well written, and there's a lot of compassion for his asexuality, and then you have Andy, who's like all the negative stereotypes of asexuality, and then she's maybe not even actually asexual. Like I don't know, it's like she never denounces the fact that she considers herself asexual, but then it's, I don't know, sex is complicated, your relationship with sex is complicated, being asexual is complicated, and like largely it comes, in many ways it comes down to identification. So like basically book Andy identifies as asexual or considers herself asexual, whether or not someone else, no matter what I feel about it. So like I don't know, and it's interesting but complicated piece of asexual representation, whereas Roland is actually if you want a more sensitive portrayal of asexuality, even though this one also has kind of issues, because like Roland is having trouble with the fact that he has to have sex with his wife, who he does love, but he needs to produce heirs, and that's leads to some iffiness. But I can also recommend this, and I actually also remember how I bought this. Like I remember I went to I applied for IB high school. I didn't get in, but I remember taking the entrance exams and all that, and then buying this before I went to home on a bus, and like I don't know. I enjoyed Stephen King books. He has his issues because like of course he does, but I enjoy a lot of what he does. So this actually became longer than I expected to do, but so that's the two instances of Stephen King dealing with asexuality, and kind of So yeah, that's it for me this week. Bye!